Hey guys, this is Alvin Chong. Welcome back to Are You Okay podcast. So today's podcast, we're going to talk about the respect of it all. Like in Malaysia's culture, we have like different races, different religion, different beliefs and stuff. And today we're going to talk about it. And I'm very happy yet very nervous to invite today's guest because she has done so many podcasts and her podcast won an award recently. You guys can hear my voice is like literally shaking right now. So here you go. Welcome, Amelia Henderson.
What an intro. Hi, my name is Amelia. Thank you so much for having me. I actually feel really very honored to be here right now because you said I've done a lot of podcasts. I've only ever done one, my own.
Yeah, your own, yeah.
So this is my first podcast ever that's not my own podcast. And I'm really happy it's with you.
Why? Why is it?
What do you mean? Like, why is this my first podcast?
Why is it you feel like happy that it's me? Because I've been to Studio Sembang before.
Mm-hmm.
Like she has done her homework like really well. She's done all the research and she knows what she's talking and stuff like that. And for me, I'm not so a by the book kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I have a lot of like points and stuff, I'll usually blank out. I usually don't know what to talk about because I'm so afraid that I'm gonna miss one of the point.
Yeah.
And then I don't know where else to go.
Yeah.
So like my team always come up with like bullet points for me to like just for me to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And even when Amelia said yes to this, when I sent her the brief, I'm like, should I send her this? This is literally like nothing.
No, I think different people have different methods and you have to do whatever works for you as long as you're capable of like pulling it together in the end. But I'm really happy to be here with you, I think, because outside of like the podcast stuff that we do, we're actually like, we're friends. I think we're friends. We've hung out a couple of times.
Yep.
I've known you for a really long time.
We play badminton together.
We play badminton together. We don't play badminton together. Alvin Chong comes to the badminton court and ruins everyone. Play makes it sound like a fun, like people have chance, like we don't have chance. No, when Alvin Chong's around. So I'm happy to be here with you because I feel like, if it was someone that I didn't know as well, I maybe would not be so comfortable answering questions, especially in a podcast setting and your podcast specifically, which is like deeper, more meaningful.
Yeah. Not saying your podcast is not meaningful. Like it's a different level.
Yeah. They're different completely.
Different. Yeah. So the reason why I want to invite you to this episode is because we both are non-Malay. But we are in the Malay industry. And, like sometimes we feel like it's hard to adapt. Like maybe the amount of time for me that I took to adapt to the industry is different than yours. And our backgrounds are different. So the very first thing I want to talk about is actually like, how do you feel to be different than other people?
Ooh, and we're getting started. No,
I mean, I can go first if you want to.
No, it's okay. I don't mind answering. I think like when I was younger and I acted, because I've been doing this my whole life, right? I was never aware of the fact that I was different in any way. It just like the penny just never dropped for me. But when I was an adult and I came back to it after taking some time away from acting and stuff like that, that's when I kind of felt it. But I didn't feel it so much like from a racial standpoint. It was more so from the fact that I was educated in an international school with extremely liberal ideologies and not really very much exposure to any type of, I wouldn't say culture because it's not down to like race. It's more so like the kind of mentality of thinking, which sometimes pushes progressive ideologies that are not really present in the shows that I take part in. So I would read some scripts and I'd be like, this is completely different from what I've learned or been exposed to as being correct. And especially in terms of like relationships and, like gender roles and stuff like that. And so it was very much like a shock for me because as a child, when you act, like you don't take on these types of heavy subjects in your acting. So as an adult, I looked at it and I was like, oh my God. And that's when I realized I was different. But it was never so much on a race perspective, it was more so just an outlook and a mentality perspective. How did I feel about it? I just felt like, oh my gosh, like I want to get back to my job and what I feel like I love the most, which is acting. So I just got to adapt and I've got to make it work for me. And I got to try to make this myself, even though sometimes I'm saying the dialogue. And firstly, I don't understand the language so well at the time. And secondly, I don't really believe in what the character is saying.
That's the shittiest part, right?
Yeah, you gotta try to make it work, I guess.
Okay, so for me, the funny story is when I was a kid, I don't speak any other languages. I don't mix with other races because from where I'm from is my parents always tell me that, okay, just mix with your own people, and then don't talk to other races. You might say something wrong, and then they
Like
might take it
accidentally
personally.
offensive. Yeah.
Accidentally offensive. And then one of the story is when I was in kindergarten, I live in a Malay centric neighborhood. So like the school bus has to like go in different neighborhoods to pick up kids to go to the kindergarten. I still remember the very first day I needed to like took the bus, and then when I went on the bus, it's full on Malay. I was the only Chinese kid on the bus, and they see that I'm different, and then they can tell that I'm probably scared. They start bullying me, like they pull my bags, and then they start calling me names. And then the second and third day and the following week, they started to throw rocks at me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I cried to school every single day. And then I told my mom I'm not taking that bus ever again. So like she found an alternative way for me to go to the kindergarten. And then that point onwards, I told myself I was being racist. Like ever since I seen a non-Chinese people,
Yeah.
I refused to look at them. I refused to talk to them.
Yeah.
I was kind of traumatized
Yeah.
with the incident.
Yeah.
And then even up till when I moved down to KL
Yeah.
after high school, I took on a diploma course in a college.
Yeah.
So when I walk into the class, you know, like I'm always a lone ranger. I do everything myself.
Yeah.
But with graphic design, you have to team up with other people. So as usual, I wait until the very last minute to see like who else is willing to team up with me. So the rest, the remaining people that don't have a group, it's all Malay. And then ever since then, I just go to the group meeting just because I want to get the work done and just go home. So after a while, they started questioning like why I don't hang out with them. And then at first I refused to tell them because it might be offensive and I don't like them. I mean, like in general, I don't like them. But after a while, they are. I can see that the way they treat me is different than the people that I met when I was a kid. So I slowly have lunch with them, have dinner with them, and then at one point they asked like, "Why did you took so long to open up?" So I told them the story, and then they started to say like, "Okay, we all have done the similar things before. Like like when we see a kid that's different than us, so sorry that like our people do that to you, but not everyone is like that." Then I started to like, okay, my perspective towards like different races, it changes. So like, what do you feel about it? Like, do you feel like, have you been receiving comments about people talking about you, about your aura,
All the
about like
time.
stuff like that?
My mom has 4 dogs and 4 cats. Yeah. And for me, when it comes to things like that, like, yeah, I go over to my mom's house all the time. The dogs are constantly sitting on my head and scratching me and wanting to play fetch and all that stuff. Do I take videos? Yeah, because I think my dogs are really cute. I mean, they're not mine. They're my mom's. I bought them for my mom for her birthday 4 years in a row. And then I moved out because I was like, there's too many animals in this house. It's kind of my fault. Yeah, I don't post about it. I post it on close friends, which you've probably seen my dogs. Yeah. But no, the general audience does not get access to me or my life in that way. I think like for me, I agree with what you're saying. I think for your positioning, you are allowed to drink. You are allowed to have dogs. You're allowed to do whatever you want to do, Alvin. And if you want to post about it, do it.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's the same principle. Like if I want to post about it, I will. I just don't feel like I do because I feel like I've been doing this for so long, ever since I was a child. And as a child, the amount of like disrespect I think that was that I experienced from like older fans who like completely disrespected the boundary of how you should speak to a child or how you should, like, I understand you see me on TV and you think that's cool and I appreciate it. And this is not every single person who has ever considered themselves a fan, but there's always one or two. And us as people, even as entertainers, like it's always the 1 or 2 bad comments that stick out the most. Whether you want to like you want to pretend about it or not. Like for me, at least, as strong as I want to be, like I will still read the bad comments and feel something, even if there's a million and one good ones. But I think in terms of like respecting other people's boundaries and stuff like that, I think there's multiple things at play. Like you brought up a lot of points, right? Like firstly, I think Malaysia is a diverse country. We're multicultural, we're multi-ethnic, we're even like multiple religions practicing at the same time. Unfortunately, I think outside of maybe Kuala Lumpur and like the very small Bangsa bubble, exposure is very limited for people within like subcategories of race or even religion. I have a super controversial opinion that I'm currently debating about whether I should share or not. Let me give you some educational background. So I went to a private school and I grew up in school with people of every single race. So people would go to agama class and then we would go to moral class. And this was just the norm. And I grew up with so many different races that I did not have any part of my life where it was like, and also maybe because I'm mixed as well, like I could never be like, I am this and everybody else is something else. I can't, because like even within myself, I'm not one thing, So like I was born in an environment where it was already diverse. Like in the house, you've got some really white like Mat Saleys from like Mat Saleh land, and then my dad, and then you've got like my mom and her family, and like my mom is educated in the UK, but my grandpa is, if you want to talk about Indian men, that's the Sri Lankan man for you. And yeah, you've got all colors of like the human complex in my house. So I never had the opportunity. And also I come from Klang. I've got Chinese family. I've got Malay relatives. Like
very diverse.
Yeah, like not being exposed to this was not an option for me. However, I think like within my experience of like life and talking to people, I realized that like some people don't have the same exposure, like some people come from communities that are entirely their
Like
own
mine.
race. Yeah, maybe even like yours. My brother went to Chinese school. He was the only non-Chinese person there. Yeah, but they loved him. He loved them. Like, but that's some people's lives are growing up like that. So my controversial opinion, even though like one day if I ever have kids, I want to send them to Chinese school. I'm not Chinese, but you better go and learn Mandarin.
Yes.
Like you must. It is important, and the discipline that you learn there is like you cannot find it anywhere else. Yeah, so I'm super supportive of it. But at the same time, the older I get, and I had this conversation with a friend a while ago about whether or not we should abolish like vernacular education. Super controversial. Let's get political with it. At first, I was like, no, I'm a minority, and I think minorities should have the right to educate ourselves in a way that's true to our culture. But at the same time, the opposite side of the coin, which as I age, I'm thinking about it more and more, is that for the development of this country that we all love, we're all Malaysians, regardless of whatever our race is that beneficial? Because schools and like the education system that I grew up in, where I was exposed to all the different races and had this type of experience of learning to be tolerant of other people, for them learning to be tolerant about my family and my dogs because they grew up with me too. Like this is not something that really, increasingly it exists less and less. And obviously the majority of people, regardless of what your racial background is, like grow up in an education where you're in an SJK or you're in SK, right? And then you learn different things. And when you're not exposed to other people, that's where you have all of this kind of like friction and conflict, differences, because you just don't understand and you're not exposed to it. And so like for you, maybe in your situation, you made that conscious effort of putting yourself out there, of traveling by yourself, about learning of other people, but not everybody does that, wants to do that, has that opportunity to do that. So sometimes I feel like this is I'm just not politically educated enough to be able to say what's definitively the best for this country and how we're gonna like become more tolerant of each other. But I would say that definitely children need to be educated in a space that they are exposed to this from the youngest possible age, so that hopefully we see a landscape one day where if you have fans that are religious and don't feel like they want to touch a dog, they will see you touching your dog and still be like, that's really cute.
Yeah.
Like I understand that that's not something that I'm wanting to do. I don't want to jeopardize my religious beliefs like that, but I still support you with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully one day this day will come. And also speaking of Malaysian cultures, because we are so diversified, right? Because a lot of people ask me like, why do I travel so much, especially just by myself? Because for me, I think Malaysian especially has the strongest capability to adapt, because we've seen so many different things. So for me to blend in to a different culture, especially not in Southeast Asia, especially, it's very easy for me because I'm willing to try, I'm willing to open up, and I'm willing to adapt. So that's all because of my will, that I'm willing to open up.
Yeah.
I think that's very important for any of us. If you want to learn about one's culture, we should respect, but at the same time, we should also like hear and see and learn what they do, and then to see whether we can adapt. And
yeah. I think it's a bit more nuanced, right? Like I used to feel really upset every time someone would tell me about like my aurat being open. It's not that I was upset that my aurat is open. I'm like, yeah, I made the choice to wear that. Like, why are you telling me that you can see my shoulders if I'm shocked that I wore this outfit that you can see my shoulder? You know, like I'm not shocked. But it was more so the thing that I was upset is like they're telling me that I'm going to go to hell, telling me that my family's going to go to hell. Like that's a line you don't cross, baby.
oh, that's one line I saw back then. Cafe.
Yeah, cafe, like all of it. It's fine. Having said that though, like when I try to understand it, I think like obviously some people come from a place of like deep rooted hate. And that's a you problem, right? But there's some messages that I read that tell me about how like, you know, like their heart's breaking because they love me so much and they want to see me go to heaven. And this is what they believe is like the blueprint to get there, right? And I can't say I'm any type of religious expert, but what I would say is that like sometimes when the niyat is good, actually it's because that, you know, like that's the belief. When they tell you these things, it's not to hurt your feelings. It's because they're doing it from a place of like, be open-minded about the point that I'm trying to make. A place of love.
Yeah.
Like they want to see you
for sure,
according to their idea of what is right. Right?
It's actually the way of approaching. Like I appreciate when people tell me that they want to see me in heaven. They want to share the good stuff with me and stuff like that. But when you show me how good you are, maybe one day I'll open up myself. But when the way of you expressing your thoughts and belief towards me, it's like very aggressive.
Yeah.
And very like unethical, and you know, like it hurts my feeling when you share
and
your
crosses the
thoughts.
boundaries and is just like really disrespectful to your ideas and your
it
beliefs.
makes me feel like, okay, so this is the image of the beliefs that you think is the right way to live. Like,
I mean, I understand what you're trying to say. At the same time though, I think like the point that I'm trying to make is that like, and this is something I'm trying to practice as well, because I feel like I'm a very fixed person. Like, you know, like you came on my podcast, like the whole thing is everything is planned. My whole day is planned. I wake up at 7 a.m. every day, clockwork, like, you know, but in that I try to think that like when we care about other people, even if their belief, like sometimes when I look at scripts and I'm like, no, right? Like sometimes even in that kind of situation, I try to remind myself that I need to be treating other people, even if their beliefs to me are super jarring, in the same way that I would expect them to treat me. Even though my beliefs to them are probably super jarring, like, girl, what you doing? Put some clothes on, you know, like maybe that's what they're thinking. But I feel the same way passionately about like a complete polar opposite idea. So I think like part of like diversity and part of learning to be okay with each other is learning to be okay with the fact that other people are okay with their different idea. Yep. And sometimes like you can't say people, you just accept it and let it go. So I think that maybe like for the fans out there and stuff like that, like the next time if they ever feel something towards you or your dogs or something like that, that's the thing that we expect, right? It's just that understand that these are Alvin's dogs. Let him have his dogs.
Yeah.
You don't have to touch them.
So now especially I don't know about you, but when I first started in the Malay industry, I like the attention. So I post a lot on stories, on social media about my daily life. But nowadays, especially these last 2 years, right after COVID, I tend to post less. One thing is because I really want to enjoy the moment, especially when I'm traveling or when I'm spending time with my friends or when I'm at an event. I like to talk to people. So you don't see me holding my phone most of the time. I don't even like take selfies anymore, very hardly. And the other reason is because I don't want the audience to know too details about my life, especially who I hang out with, because it might cause like unnecessary gossips or like problems or like things that you don't feel like answering. So which is why I don't do that very often now. And yet I still want people to know the real me. So hence this podcast exists.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk to you about is how do you blend into the industry? Like we look different, and we don't really speak the accent, the language, right when we first started, especially. Because for me, I hang out a lot with a lot of the crew members. I literally tell them, like, you guys can mock me, can laugh at me, but at least please correct me so that I know how to improve myself. So which is why nowadays, like, people say, like, oh, you speak Malay really well, like you don't sound like a Chinese guy, blah blah blah. It took me years to get there.
I completely get it.
And yeah, I just want to know, like, how you improve your Malay.
How I improve my Malay language? I practice lah. Like, I don't speak Malay at home at all. Actually, I speak English at home. Well, I mean, I don't. I live alone, so I just don't really speak much at home. I normally let, like, I put on Alvin Chong's podcast, and then I sit there and I let him do the speaking. But when I was living with my family, we speak English at home exclusively. Like, there was no bahasa in the house. I mean, or very, very, very minimal. So I learned bahasa on set, and yeah, I had the same pelat problem that you did. I heard pelat about like 500 times a day, and I got so sick of it, and I got so angry, and I got so irritated, and I felt so upset because I was like, there's literally nothing that I can do. I can't, like, take a pill and magically wake up with the most flawless bahasa Melayu. I wish I could, but I can't. So I just made sure that, I was gonna fix it. Because I was like, I don't like it when people say I can't do something. It feels like a personal challenge.
You feel like challenged and you want to just nail
I can't do something.
Excuse me.
So now I've become like Bahasa Malaysia expert lah. Like, I'm like, my whole family, they're like, Amelia, how do you say this? And my mom will send me chunks of, like, paragraphs of something. And she'll be like, translate for me, and I'm like, I feel super accomplished. But also when I think about it, I think, like, it was a different thing that was instilled, like, maybe in my family environment growing up. My mom always told me from the youngest possible age, you must speak Bahasa Malaysia well. Like, it doesn't matter if you have the accent down. It doesn't matter if you are, like, the most diverse grammar on the planet. Like, you don't have to be a professor, but you must speak it well. You must be able to communicate with people in Bahasa Malaysia. So even when I came back into the industry, even though, like, things like the accent were not there, maybe grammatically, like slang, I could not do slang. Like, I couldn't speak conversational bahasa. I could speak bahasa as in, like, whatever that's, like, straight from the textbook. It was like saya.
Very baku.
Yeah, very baku, because I learned bahasa that way. But I could speak it. You would understand it. You'd probably make fun of me for it. But I mean, I was trying my best because that was something that, like, was instilled into me. Now I feel like I've come a real long way with bahasa. And the more I know about it, the better I get at speaking this language, the more I enjoy using it.
And speaking of that, right, like, how when Mat Saleh, like the real Mat Saleh from other countries, when they speak our language, we'll be like, even with the strongest accent, we'll be like, wow, that's impressive and stuff like that. But when our own people are trying to speak our own language, even because we are from different backgrounds, and our mother tongue is entirely different language.
Yeah.
But why do we, like, does it ever cross your mind why we like to mock our own people? Like, okay, for example, right, if a Malay person speak Mandarin, we would be like, wow, impressive. But when a Chinese guy speak Malay, in our accent, most of the time we get mocked.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I just feel like it's funny.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
I mean, there's two things happening here. Firstly, if we look at the history of Malaysia, right, we used to obviously be colonized by the United Kingdom, and some sort of that mentality still kind of exists within our culture. It's even like when you look at, local people speaking English, if they don't speak English flawlessly, we make fun of each other for not speaking English well. You see his accent. Yeah, which is like, come on. Like, we didn't choose to have to speak this language. They came here.
Yep.
So now the fact that we've reclaimed English, we're using it for ourselves. And this is rich coming from someone who's half white, I know. But, I think, like, when it comes to speaking English, just as a first part, speak it however you want to speak it, with whatever accent that you want. This is a language that was forced onto us. So now we have the right to speak it however we want to, with whatever accent we want to. Manglish is a real language. Thank you.
Yeah.
When it comes to like other ethnicities within Malaysia speaking Bahasa Malaysia, and I guess getting some sort of like flack for it or getting made fun of, I think that's basically because this is my understanding of it. Obviously, I'm not saying I participate in this idea, but I do think that, for whatever it's worth, this is our country and the national language is Bahasa Malaysia. So I guess the reason you see people make fun of each other is because there is an expectation that we're all supposed to be taking our national language seriously. However, I think there's so much history tied into this specific subject matter, and there's so much like politics tied into it. Like if you look at Indonesia, for example, another diverse country, why does everybody there only speak Bahasa Indonesia? If you look at the history, it's actually not so pleasant. Yeah. If you look at Malaysian history, like we went a different route from Indonesia in terms of how we try to diversify the country and accept every race that's still here, which is, vernacular education and allowing people to retain their culture and stuff like that. But at the same time, this is the opportunity cost of it. So these are decisions that right now as a society we're dealing with that were made before our generation, dude. Like, why are things the way that they are? I don't know. But what I would say is that, like, as a member of the younger generation that wasn't around during these fundamental decision-making times within the independence of Malaysia and stuff like that, what I would say is that I think that, I believe everyone in Malaysia should be able to speak Bahasa Malaysia.
Yes.
Whether you speak it with an accent or not is so irrelevant.
Yes, very irrelevant.
Yeah, super irrelevant, because languages are about communication. And to be honest, if I speak whatever language with the worst accent, you're still understanding it, then I am successfully communicating to you.
But I do agree with you, like every single Malaysian should learn to speak
100%.
Bahasa Malaysia especially.
Yeah.
And like you said, it doesn't matter if you speak it badly, as long as you can communicate, converse.
Yes.
That's good enough.
Yes.
Like some of my friends actually try to speak Malay to different people. But then they stop because they couldn't stand
being made fun of. Let me tell you some stories. When I was on set, I used to get called like Mat Saleh all the time. There was one time like a DOP, he just didn't want to learn my name because I wasn't famous or important enough. So he kept saying like, hey, Mat Saleh, move. Then that was my name on set for the entire like 3 months that I was shooting on set.
That's so
And I was
rude.
like, bloody hell. Like, right. And so like, similarly to you, I've been reduced to like my ethnic background so many times, or like the way that I look so many times, and it's really annoying. It feels hyper disrespectful, and it is absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna let one disrespectful person
to affect you,
because ultimately, right, like the way that your friend should look at it, when they learn Bahasa Malaysia and they can use it really well, that actually is a skill for them.
to survive.
It's a skill. It's a skill for them. Like if I'm trying to learn Mandarin at the moment, okay? I'm not trying to learn Mandarin to impress any of my friends that can speak Mandarin, although I'm sure it'll be very impressive when I learn Mandarin. I'm not trying to learn Mandarin for any other reason but to make myself better and to facilitate my life.
And feel more confident.
I'm going to learn it. If you want to make fun of me in the meantime, for example, like it could be Mandarin, it could be Tamil, it could be whatever, whatever. But this is a skill that's going to help me. I'm not going to stop helping myself just because you're making fun of me. No, this is something I'm doing for me. It's got nothing to do with you and your stupid, shitty opinion. That makes you not a nice person that I want to be around anyways.
Yeah.
So I think we should stop focusing on what other people think about our personal journeys and start thinking about whether I want to learn Bahasa for what? For me? Then I'm going to do this for me, and none of y'all should have anything to say about it.
Oh, I have something to share as well. Like, when I first started to enter the Malay industry, because I started like way before, like only in the Chinese market. When I wanted to try on the Malay market, most of my Chinese friends, especially the ones in the industry, say like, you know what, they'll never accept you. Just stop doing it. Stop wasting your time. You're gonna throw away all the efforts you have made throughout the years and stuff like that. And then the funny story is like after I made it, sort of, their reaction changes.
Yeah.
They started to ask me like, how did you do it? Like, you know, like trying to like ask me for my advice and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel proud of myself. Like I feel like I've achieved something that, like people looked on me before.
Yeah.
But if I'm persistent enough, when I succeed, then things will turn completely 360 around.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with English. Like I only started to speak English. Like I know how to read English, like the basic one.
Dude, your English is so good. What are you talking about?
No, it was really bad back then. Like,
yeah, but please, you ask me to speak Mandarin right now, I will fail. So like, how can people expect you to have some sort of standard of being trilingual? Are they trilingual? No. So shut up and stop talking about your English or your Bahasa. It's
Yeah.
better than their Mandarin will ever be. I guarantee it for you.
Yeah, probably. But then that didn't stop me because I love traveling.
Yeah.
So I think this is one of the main reasons why I learned English, and I try to adapt and I try to fix my accent, even
Yeah.
though like it's okay for me to speak in my own accent. But I wanted to blend in so bad. I don't know why I crave for that, because I don't want people to look at me differently. It's just I think just my personal desire that I want to be accepted most of the time. Um, that's why I try so hard. You know how I learn English? I watch like NTV7,
Yeah.
the English channel, the
Yeah.
English shows. And then,
Yeah.
they have like Bahasa subtitle.
Yeah.
I'll write it down all the words I don't
So
understand.
you spoke Bahasa before you spoke English?
Mm,
Or like kind of
at the same time. At the
Okay.
same time. I learn it at the same
Yeah.
time. But the funny story is I don't get to practice my English that often.
Yeah.
Because after I started to act in Malay shows, most of my friends are Malay. And I don't hang out with the Chinese friends as much as before.
Yeah.
Because most of the time I'll be on set,
Yeah.
and the only language I spoke is Bahasa, and it's hard for me to learn English except for when I travel. But I'm actually quite proud of myself. Looking back throughout the years, from the very first time I went to Australia, I couldn't even order a McDonald's. Like I stunned and my whole body just couldn't move. And when the person at the counter asked me, like, what do you want? You know, like how Australian has a really strong accent.
Super strong accent.
Super strong. And then I got stunned because never in my life I have to speak with a white person before. So I thought I would be able to communicate in English or Manglish,
Yeah.
so-called. And then I couldn't. And then my friend had to came and rescued me and help me order and stuff.
Yeah.
I was so humiliated and embarrassed. And ever since then, and that was in 2010. So ever since then, I told myself, I need to speak to strangers more. I need to embrace this and just nail it. Yeah, so that's...
I'm proud of you for that though. You know, I think when it comes to anxiety, feeling nervous, stressed about things, intimidated, all of these things, normally what happens is when we feel these as human beings, what our brain is trying to tell us is we don't like it, don't do it again. And so a lot of human beings, when put in a situation where you're like, oh my God, I'm so heavily intimidated, I'm embarrassed, I feel like this is a horrible experience for me and I want to disappear into a hole in the ground, they will never put themselves in that position ever again. But the real way to overcome it is by continuously putting yourself in that position over and over and over again until you force yourself to learn how to deal with it. And that's what you did. And that's very impressive. Not many people can do that.
Yeah, and also one thing, especially when I do live stream on TikTok or Instagram, because my followers are very diversified, very diverse. I have Chinese.
So how do you do it? Do you put 3 different types of subtitles on your TikTok video?
No,
how
so
do you do
nowadays
it,
I just do it in English.
Okay.
So when I first started, I was trying to blend into the Malay culture. So most of my captions are in Malay, and then the Chinese audience feels like they are being neglected.
Sidelined, yeah.
I try to talk to them we are Malaysian. We should try to how to if it's Chinese related word stuff, I'll do it in Mandarin. But then ever since I've done so many Malay postings before, my postings are in Malay, and then if I ever did one in Mandarin, and then the Malay audience would be like, why is it in Mandarin? So back then there's no translation on Instagram, so you couldn't translate the whole thing. And then I felt so helpless. I don't know what to do with this audience. I don't know how to do things to cater for everybody. So a couple years ago, I decided I'm just gonna post everything in English, and then they start to say things about we don't really we can't really relate to whatever you're writing. Can you just, especially when I do live stream nowadays, there will still be comments about cakap bahasa Melayu, 可以讲中文吗？就是 they're trying to control how you should be or how I should be. So, but then again, I'm just if you don't understand English, just
Just don't watch the live,
just
brother.
don't watch it live. Don't
Or
try
like
to.
like Google Translate is really magic now. Like you can take the Google Translate, you press the button. I sound like auntie, right? Press the button in the middle, no, and then you put it next to the phone, and it will start translating for you, like from audio bites. It can do that now, right? I think that there's an app. So like go and look into it,
Yeah.
dude. I get this all the time, and I used to feel really pissed off about it because I speak English with a generally neutral accent because I grew up in an English speaking household. I've said this so many times. People still don't get it. But when I speak Bahasa, they would say that the pelat is there. And then sometimes, like when I speak English, they will say the same thing to me, like speak Bahasa, speak Bahasa. Sometimes when I speak Bahasa in my lives, I'm reading the comment, it's like, sumpah aku tak faham dia cakap apa. Boleh tak cakap bahasa Melayu? I'm like,
ouch, that's so disrespectful.
no, I'm speaking in Malay right now. Like, what do you want? So the thing is, right? Like, you will never, ever, 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 ever make everybody happy. It's never gonna happen, and we should just quit this attempt because it is so
tiring,
exhausting, draining, and it's not gonna go anywhere. So just do whatever you want. Like, if on that day you want to speak Mandarin, you speak lah. On that day you want to speak Bahasa, you speak whatever you want.
Even the fact that I love traveling so much, it gets me into trouble. Not trouble. Like, it's funny to hear people talk about like, why are you traveling so much? Like, don't you have to work and stuff like that? But for me, it's because I feel like I needed to rest. To be honest, most of my trip doesn't cost much money compared to the friends trip that I have. That all my friends are having like year-end holiday back in December and stuff like that. I'm really spending like really minimal money because even when I was in Bali, one of the days or 2 or 3 days, I would just like get a day bed by the beach, sleep that whole day, just watch people surfing, like like swimming in the water and stuff like that, because it feels so calming for me.
Oh my god, it sounds like my idea of hell, to be honest, bro, but like, good for you.
Really?
I'm so sorry. I'm like not calm at all. I refuse to be calm. I reject it with my entire being.
Because like in our line of work, I feel like I need to interact with a lot of people.
I get you.
And it's so tiring. So sometimes I just want to detach myself, go to a place where I know people know me. I can be half naked and I'm not being criticized. And I can just like, go into the water whenever I want to and get back up and then just lay there, get my tan. I love getting tan.
If you want to be tan, Alvin, just do it. Like, you want to go sit on the sun, like make sure you wear SPF because you don't want to get like any type of like proper skin. That's the only concern as your friend that I would say that you should be thinking about.
I have a sunscreen carrying with me all the time.
Like the 150 SPF,
every
the one
hour,
that like every
reapplying.
Malaysian uses this. All of the Kanchong spiders
Red
buy
colour.
this and I know. Yeah, good. I want to mention the brand, but never mind. So all of the Kanchong spiders need to have this, at least like 3 of the spray, okay? But worry about that and don't worry about what people say about the color of your tan, because it's like super not their business. But this is true about like trying to make other people happy or trying to not make other people happy, or the extent to which people can even comment on you. I understand they're your stylist, and sometimes it just comes from a place of like, they feel like they're so involved in you and your aesthetic. This is what people need to understand about the entertainment industry. In any business, and the entertainment industry is a business, there is a product. When the product is not a human being with feelings and emotions and, wants and desires, it's super okay for us to comment on anything about the product. Hey, the product design is really ugly. Don't use a yellow unicarton, use a pink one, for example. This is not going to hurt anybody's feelings except for maybe the original designer of the unicarton, but it's part of their job. However, in the entertainment industry, we are the product. And this is where like a lot of the conflict lies, because as products, we are also people. And in order to make a rational decision for business development about any product, it has to be rational. But people are not rational. We are all emotional. We got feelings about our tans, about our bodies, the way we look, what we want to eat, what we want to do, whether we feel like we want to smile and be happy. And this is why the entertainment industry is continuously like regarded to be like, this is why all our parents are like, you sure you want to do that? I can't survive. This is why it's so hard to survive, because you are the product, dude. There's so much pressure. There's an unbelievable amount of like control and detachment that you have to have as a person in order to step back and make a rational decision. But back to what you were saying about your tan. Do you know how many sets I have been on? And I can say this here because I feel safe in this podcast, where people have commented about my body in a completely inappropriate way, trying to suggest that it should be some other way than it is. Especially about, can I say this? I know you're a guy. Is this too much information? Can I go here?
Yeah.
You know how many freaking times a stylist has told me that my boobs are too small? Do you know how many goddamn times? And you know how angry it makes me? It makes me so freaking furious, Alvin. And I know you're my friend and you're a guy, but like, what? On every single goddamn set I have ever been on, at least once, somebody has commented about why I should not be stuffing my bra because it looks so flat and unattractive. I don't take it in a bad way because I understand they're coming from a good place with it. But are you
fucking
kidding me?
I will say it for you. Fucking
Dude,
kidding me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like telling a guy like your penis looks small.
Yeah, or it's
like
this.
in your
No,
pants.
dude, it's the same. It's giving the same energy as like, bro, like, why did you go and get so tan? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, like mind your own business.
Yeah, mind your own business. So this is the thing, right, about the entertainment industry that also like causes a lot of pressure for me is that or has caused a lot of pressure for me in the past is we are entertainers. Our job is to entertain.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also have a responsibility to ourselves to learn exactly where the boundary of that is. I don't know where it is for you, man. But for me, it's like when it comes to posting on social media, anything that we spoke about today, like I know where my boundary is because I spent so many years trying to develop this for myself. So I know that if it's my mom's dogs and I don't want to post them about on Instagram, you don't deserve it. It's not because I'm terrified that you're going to hate me because I like touched my mom's dog. No, you don't deserve to know that about me in my life. And I don't want to take on any of the energy attached to it. It's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to like how I look, what I eat, if I go on holiday and it's just an expensive holiday or a not expensive, like you have no right to know, actually. So when it comes to your holidays and stuff like that, Alvin, even if your holiday is the most expensive from all of your friends, who has the right to tell you what you can and cannot be doing on your holiday and how much money you can spend? Nobody, because did they earn it for you? No, you did.
You're right.
So,
You're right.
who gives a shit?
The only good thing that I started to correct myself is I stopped looking into my DM boxes. Like I don't read my comments anymore. So hence, like sometimes I don't reply to my friends' comments. I feel so bad. So there are times when I'm too free, like I'm too bored. I'll just like look at it and say, shit, I didn't reply to this one.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a way for me to really detach from the toxic segment from social media.
Yeah.
Toxic side of social media. And I feel better now actually. Like I feel more light.
Yeah.
And I have more time to do my own thing because I get easily distracted and affected by the bad things that people say about me online.
Yeah.
Used to. But now not so much anymore because I don't even look at them anymore.
Yeah.
But which is a good thing.
Yeah, it is. I think I have a very simple litmus test as to how I decide whether I'm going to post something about it or not. So I think like I'm an incredibly private person. And I think I've finally, at my ripe old age of 21, I was going to roll with it. I realized that's so far-fetched. Whatever age I am now, which is 21. I've decided that this is the test. This is how I know whether I'm comfortable sharing something with somebody or in public or not. I will come back and I would have taken like a bunch of pictures during the day. If I'm hanging out with my friends, I don't take pictures. Like when we went to badminton, I don't think we took a single picture. No. Yeah, because for me, that's my personal time, right? If I'm feeling something about it, if I'm happy to be here, I'm not going to take any pictures because I want to feel that emotion. When I'm at work, it's not that I'm not happy. I'm super happy, but I also know that part of my job is taking pictures. Yeah. So when I come back at the end of the day and I look at all the pictures throughout my day, maybe I saw my friend for lunch and then I had some work and then I went and did this and then I spent time with my mom. I'll be looking at them and like, do these photos, were they taken at a time that I was like feeling something or was I working? If I was working, I'll post them. At lunch, was I feeling something? Yeah, I was super happy to be seeing my friend. These are mine. They are not for anybody else's consumption. And that's how like I like kind of like go through it. And that's what people see. So I think like, even though I have a podcast now, like as the host and stuff like that, I don't feel like I'm putting myself out there that much. So I still feel like I lead an incredibly public-facing life, but at this stage of my life, I feel like nobody actually knows that much about me. And I'm really proud. It's because I've curated it in a way that protects myself from giving away too much energy, but in a way that still gives away just enough. So anyways, as I was saying, so when you're a singer, because people actually get to know you through your art and through your craft, they love you. So when they follow you on social media and stuff like that, they are engaged with you. They care about you. They will buy your merchandise.
Yes.
For me as an actor, business-wise, the struggle that I face and the reason I started my own podcast is because I wanted people to get to know me, because I realized their expectation of who I am as a person is dictated by the roles that I take,
Yes.
which, by the way, are so different from who I am as a person. I loved my characters and I've hated my characters, and I've disagreed completely with the characters that I loved, and I've agreed with some of the characters that I hated on so many different things, but none of them are an actual representation of who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And so therefore, like for me, when I try to sell merchandise, I realize that it's not as successful because you're not engaged with me.
Yes.
You don't know what the hell I like.
Mhm.
You don't know anything about me. Oh my God. And so then I started Studio Sembang, and I realized the best merchandise or the best business initiative for somebody like me who has continuously like had a public profile that has hidden behind so many characters, and then people are so disappointed. They're so shocked when my character is like, okay, and then Amelia Henderson says something super controversial. And then they're like, oh my God, how could she? I thought she was meant to be exactly like XYZ. And I'm like,
Sweet, kind.
yeah,
and-
so Studio Sembang has been the best investment of my time, energy, effort, money, all of it so far. Because for the first time, I feel like I'm myself.
This is the same thing I want to start a podcast too. Like I want to let people know this is how I usually speak.
Yeah.
Because like in general, people always assume that I'm always happy and cheerful.
Yeah.
And like, you know,
Yeah.
even the agency who came and approached me, be like, oh, can you do this like super happy expression
Yeah.
and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I keep telling my manager, like, can I not do this?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like it's so tiring for me to
Yeah.
like act as a different person. Like, you know, acting is very tiring for me already, because like some of the roles, I have to be like really aggressive,
Yeah.
which is not me, but I understand that it's a role.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, you know, like influencing, I want to influence people with the real me, not with any roles, any other roles. So yeah, so I'm pretty sure after this podcast published, people would say shit about me as well. Like, oh, Alvin is so different in this podcast and you know, like real life, blah blah. But it is what it is, and then hopefully I will either gain a new
Yes.
audience, or I would change like some of the existing audience mindset towards me. Yeah.
You will, for sure. I had the same concern when I was doing Studio Sembang, dude. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to post this podcast. It's going to be so different from what people expect from me. Like, because I feel like they might expect the same thing, like something like super exuberant and cheerful. And I am like that. But then also the roles that I take is just like me crying all the time.
But usually the girls' role are always crying.
Always crying. And but like I love it.
You love
I love
crying?
it because like, okay, so I've been acting my whole life. And when it comes to like all of the different things that I do, the thing that I'm the best at, I think is hosting. The thing that I love the most is acting. So they're both important to me in different ways. I think like, I'm not saying I'm a bad actress, but I love acting. I love it so much. I'm definitely better at hosting. But when it comes to acting, the reason I love it is because that is the time that I feel like the most like, this is gonna sound so like sociopathic, but powerful.
Oh yeah.
Because I think that when you're like a creative and you're creating something, and when you're painting or whatever, the feeling of like not power, but like the feeling of like, oh my God, like I am an artist, is when people look at your painting and they feel something, right? For me, that feeling for me comes not just from the crying scenes, but like from whatever scenes, right? Like they have to be like incredibly emotional scenes. When I feel like I can do that, and then I watch it on TV, and I feel like, oh my God. Like
Impressed
I
you.
feel not impressed. I don't feel impressed. Like, you know, when you see somebody cry and you're like, oh my God, I feel so
Touched.
sad for
Yeah.
them. Like when I watch my own acting, I've managed to do this sometimes with some crying scenes that I've done, where I watch it back and I'm like, damn, I look sad. Like poor me, you know? Then I feel like that's the most in tune that I am with myself as an actor, because I've managed to really like sell that emotion. And then I feel like, wow.
For me, it's like I feel so embarrassed to watch myself on TV.
Oh, me too. Don't get me wrong.
But
This is like a
then-
once in a year.
But then
occasion.
like sometimes when like what you said, like when on set, when your co-actors or your other colleagues are giving
yeah.
on the scene,
Yeah.
you feel like we are all in characters.
Yeah.
And that's so fun to do it.
Dude, that's what I'm talking about. But it sounds like super like hippie when we try to explain it to people. How do you explain like the energy, right? Like when
The
you're doing
energy
a scene
level
and you
is the
can
same,
feel
yeah.
the like, you feel it's like you feel the intensity. So like go and argue with somebody. And
Yes.
when you're fighting with them and you feel like that energy, when you're acting, the job is you need to recreate that. But it's like fake. Like it's not you, it's not your life, like it's not your friend or your mom or whoever you're acting with. But when you get that in a scene, you feel like, wow.
Wow. It's
Shit, an
satisfying.
actor.
It's very satisfying.
It's very satisfying. Like that's the biggest reward for acting for me.
Okay. Okay. We are.
I don't know how we got there, but back to regular programming.
One last thing before you go off is we want to talk about the vulnerability about being an artist. For me, is I don't know about you because you always look so cheerful and very talkative. Your style is like that. But I don't know whether you feel lonely sometimes, because for me, I do feel lonely most of the time. Like I feel like sometimes I don't even know how to talk to people. I don't even know like what part of me I should share with my friends, or like which part of me that I should just keep it hidden for myself.
There's no right answer.
No right answer.
There's no right answer. Like how much of yourself should you keep hidden? There's no right answer, dude. Like it's up to you. And it depends on who you're speaking with. I think like in terms of vulnerability, like I for somebody who cries a lot on camera, like you can find so many videos of Amelia Henderson crying on the internet, but I've never like gotten vulnerable with the public on a personal level. I would not feel comfortable doing that. Getting vulnerable with anybody, irrespective of who they are, regardless of their relationship to me, whether it's a professional one or a personal one, is something that I've always struggled with. Do I feel like lonely and stuff all the goddamn time, man? Like, I think like, especially like recently over the past couple of months, not the past couple of months, the past 6 months in my life personally, from the day that we are recording this podcast, have been like some of the worst that I've ever experienced in my life. On all aspects, not just professional, but also personal. So many things have happened behind the scenes that nobody knows about because I will not speak about it, that have really made me feel really upset and down. And like some of the professional ones, like if you guys have seen, like, dude, you know, like it's just been like hit after hit after hit after hit. Can I talk about it? Sure. Is it going to make me feel better talking about it? I don't think so. And that's why I don't, because I feel like, you know, in life, like there's always an up, there's always a down, and you just kind of have to push through it.
But what is your outlet? Like, how do you just suppress it? Like, just
I talk about it sometimes to the people that are like absolutely like the closest to me, of which there's like two. I mean, like that's pushing it. 2 people. That's it. I'll talk to my problems about.
Yeah.
It depends on how important the problem is to me. Like the higher we go, it's like a pyramid of problems. Almost like the pyramid of like that you learn in business. Is it Maslow? I can't remember. So like the higher up the problem is, the lesser it is, but the more intense it is, right? So when you get to the top of Amelia's pyramid, those problems I talk to maybe one person about. The second level of problems, slightly less problematic problems, but also still problems, I'll talk to like a wider range of friends about. And as you go low, the less the problem means to me, but also the more I'll speak about it. And so that's kind of like how I deal with it. But the very, very, very personal, very, very upsetting problems that I go through in my life, how do I deal with it? I've tried so many things, dude. I've tried journaling. I've tried like listening to music, waking up early, doing yoga. I'm so sorry. Like that would help a more developed human being, but not me. I'm just sitting there doing the yoga. Like, is this supposed to help me? Like, I don't know, man. It looked cute on the gram when she did it, but it's not doing much for me. I'll just sit there and I'll think about them. That's my only actual coping method. I just sit there and I look like a zombie, and I'm probably a super unpleasant person to be around. That's why like I'm like, guys, love y'all. Please give me like 3 days off and I'll talk to you in a bit. And I just sit there thinking about my problems, and that's all I do for 3 days. And I just go and eat and I clean up and I organize. And whilst I'm organizing my house, I'm thinking about my problem. Normally by the end of like 1-2 days, I feel like it's either I've accepted it or I've figured out what I want to do about it.
But does it still come back after? Like, it still hit you like sometimes?
No, because I feel like when you're going through something that's like a repetitive problem or like a huge issue in your life, there's literally only 2 outcomes for this. You accept it and then you shut up about it permanently and you let it go, right? Or you figure out what you're going to do about it and you execute immediately. Anything else is torturing yourself.
Yeah.
If you're going to sit there and you're going to keep thinking about this problem, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. Should I just let it be? Should I just let it be? That whole process is really tiring. So it's either you decide like, this is what it is. This is the problem. I feel like I'm in a position where I cannot do anything about it. So I'm not going to do anything about it. Then never complain about it ever again because you've already made this decision.
Yeah.
I mean, the trick here is to try to force yourself to make a decision. Until you make the decision, you're in hell.
The moral of the story is just to accept the fact, and because life has to go on.
Life has to go on.
You
don't have to accept it. You don't have to accept it. You can decide, I'm going to do something about it. I don't like this problem. I feel like I'm going to remove it from my life. Whether the person is a problem, for example, like this person's really hurting my feelings. It's either I love them so much, right, as a friend or whatever, as their value in my life, that I'm just going to accept that this is how they are, and I'm going to deal with it. Or I've decided I cannot take this anymore. You need to be not in my life anymore. Then you take the action step. Yeah. But if you're sitting there doing nothing about it, you're torturing yourself. So for me, like with the most personal of like difficult problems, that's the one decision that I force myself to make. It's either am I going to do something about it or not?
This is the same thing that's happening to me, that was happening to me before. Like I used to be always saying yes to people. Like I don't even know how to say no. So whenever my friends ask me to lepa or like help them out, I always say, yeah, even though I'm busy as fuck. But I say, yeah, come over around this time, I'll help you out and stuff like that. But nowadays, I took the initiative to start not to replying to people.
Yeah.
Like slowly to let them know that I'm actually not very keen to like come on board.
Yeah, that's so nice of you, Alvin. I'm even worse now. I've entered my complete like death era mode. Like I swear to God, people text me, they'll be like, hey babe, like what are you doing? Let's go get lunch. I'll be like, no, thank you. Like I won't even ghost them. I'll literally be like, no thanks. Sorry. Not really, like I'm out of it this week. I'll text you next week, babe.
This is gonna be on TikTok.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. And I feel really bad about it. But here's the thing. This is a great process of natural selection. The more you do this, if you realize those people don't stick around to wait for you, they're actually not your friends. Yeah. If you actually are able to communicate like, no, thank you. I'm super not in a good place right now. I really want to see you. It will be next week when I feel like I'm emotionally available. You'll be shocked because the friends who are like, you know what? Totally understand. I'll be here for you when you need me next week. Those are the real friends. So this has been a great detoxifier of my life of negative friends who I thought were my friends, who I wanted to deliver on, and then they were never going to be there for me when I needed it.
Yes, that's what I was facing as well. But I feel very contented and happy right now, like because I have more time for the people that actually care about me.
Exactly.
So like I don't want to have a bunch of friends where I have to always give my time and they don't understand our working cultures.
Yeah.
We can't be there for every single gatherings and stuff like that, and they start blaming us for not being there for them.
And they're like, like you're not such a good friend and all this stuff, and it's like
and then when we do attend a gathering, it's all about gossips and like just like very surface conversation, which is like so tiring. And and I'm more happy and contented now. So
so maybe you need to start saying no thank you next time.
No thank you next time. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. I probably pissed off a lot of people this week, I'm not gonna lie, but it's too bad.
I mean, this is the real world, man.
Yeah.
Like you should always take care of your mental health and also your own inner feelings. And like what Amelia said earlier, we cannot always make everybody happy, but put yourself first, and always try to treat yourself better. Yeah. So that's the end of this podcast.
Already?
Yes. You want to be on the next one?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay, see you next on Are You Okay?